Thank you, Laura, for that conversation. For years, a largely invisible crisis has been burdening Indigenous families across New Mexico: unsolved missing persons cases. Jurisdictional issues, bureaucratic hoops, and cultural divides have all contributed to the problem, but this year, a state task force took a significant step by releasing a formal response plan. Now, it includes recommendations for streamlining law enforcement communication, developing community outreach and prevention programs, and the creation of an annual event to acknowledge the crisis while providing resources at the same time. This week, senior producer Lou DeVizio talks with New Mexico Secretary of Indian Affairs Lynn Trujillo about the importance of this new event and how the recommendations in that state response plan will be put into place.
Joining me today is New Mexico's Secretary of Indian Affairs, Lynn Trujillo. Thank you for joining me, Secretary.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Now, there's been some encouraging progress in the effort to acknowledge, solve, and prevent missing persons cases, particularly among Indigenous people. The Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Relatives Task Force released its state response plan earlier this year. There's been some legislative action recently. Are you encouraged with the progress that's being made here in our state?
I really am. I think when I look at what's been done across the nation, New Mexico really is a leader. We've done a lot in terms of establishing the task force, expanding the task force, and as you mentioned, issuing the state response plan earlier this year, and then now implementing it. And so I think, we've done remarkable here in a very short amount of time.
That state response plan, it identifies 6 main objectives. For those of you watching, you can read it online. We have links on our YouTube page and social media whenever you click on this story. But I don't want to get into the particulars of each one of those 6 objectives. But how important is it to identify particular areas of need and have them in writing so that we can go out now and address those?
Well, I mean, it's a roadmap, right? And it's an important plan that wasn't only for the task force, it's for everyone. We've been sharing it widely. And so I think it's helped our federal partners, our tribal partners, and our state partners, our legislators. We shared it with them, and then the governor. So it really provides that roadmap, and I think it also helps with accountability in terms of what the state can do, as well as federal and tribal governments.
That brings me to the inaugural Missing in New Mexico Day. And that was one of the recommendations made in the response plan. It's happening this Saturday, October 22nd, from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Indian Pueblo Cultural Center in Albuquerque. The goal is obviously to help raise awareness of the problem, but other events or resources that can have a tangible impact for people who are dealing with a crisis like this?
Sure. So this event is the first of its kind here in the state of New Mexico. I think it's important to note that it was a result of legislation that was introduced and passed, and so it'll happen every year in the state of New Mexico, and it's for all missing persons, and really provides not only an opportunity for awareness and education, but provides an opportunity for families and individuals to come to the Indian Pueblo Cultural Center and file a missing persons report and or to update an existing report. And we're really encouraging individuals to come to bring vital information like dental records, medical records, pictures. We'll have NamUs there who will help enter this information into databases. And then we'll also have support services, so behavioral health, mental health support. And so, that's a little bit of what will be provided there during the event.
What would you tell somebody who might be hesitant to go to an event like this, who is dealing with a crisis like this?
I would really encourage them to come to the event. We've taken steps to make sure that there are areas for families and to talk with law enforcement privately. Just want to encourage them to bring information, but also, it is part of, or can be part of, a healing process where you might be able to connect with other people who are missing family members as well. So I just, even though people might be hesitant, I think it's an opportunity for them to maybe start to find answers for themselves and for their family members about their missing loved one.
Law enforcement, of course, plays a big role in investigating and prosecuting these cases, and bolstering those efforts is one of the objectives laid out in that response plan. What are some of the logistical difficulties right now when it comes to investigating these cases, things like information sharing between agencies like the FBI and tribal law enforcement?
Yeah, so when we started to explore this issue here in New Mexico, there was various data points, and one of the reasons why that happens is because of the different reporting systems, and a lot of times they don't talk to each other, and a lot of times some agencies don't talk to each other. Because of the task force and the work of the task force, law enforcement was at the table and involved in the task force and in informing part of the state response plan and providing different recommendations for starting to break down these barriers. I think as a result of the work here in New Mexico, we've seen some of that starting to happen, and more agencies working together, sharing information, but also more importantly, sharing that information with our families and individuals who are looking for their loved ones.
I know there's a cultural factor to this too. When we spoke to the FBI special agent in charge about his agency's role and his investigators' roles, he told us that when the FBI or a non-tribal entity gets involved navigating some of those cultural differences is vital to understanding the details of a missing persons case. Does the state response plan call for any sort of special training for these officers so that when they go into these situations, they know how to handle what can be a delicate cultural situation sometimes?
Yes, actually, one of the strategies that's listed in the plan is in relation to training and making sure that there's training for law enforcement. I think there's opportunities with respect to state police to receive information in their training about MMIWP and even human trafficking. I know is an issue related to MMIP, and so there are some recommendations. I think for it to be informed by community is really important. I'd like to see some of that begin to happen, but yes, the task force did identify more training.
Now, you mentioned community. How important is the role of community in identifying and preventing these situations where a friend or a neighbor ends up missing?
I mean, community is at the core of the task force and what we do. They're vital. We need community. We need their trust, and we need to listen to them. And I think a lot of that is represented in the state response plan. The task force was expanded by executive order by Governor Lujan Grisham, and part of that was to add additional community members. It was really important for their voice to be heard, and so we continue to do that. I mean, the task force meetings, they are open to the public and create a safe space so that we can be inclusive and hear from individuals and community members, other partners. It's just really important because this is a collaborative effort.
Of course, the long-term goal of the state response plan is to prevent these cases from happening in the first place. Mm-hmm. And that's why the plan spells out other necessary societal changes, things like education, career training, expanded professional opportunities for Indigenous people. How do these things factor into the long-term prevention plan?
Well, I think when we look at MMIP, there's a whole host of issues. One is in relation to housing and providing for support services for housing. Education is really important, I think, for many reasons, not only in terms of the awareness of the crisis here in New Mexico, but also for preventative efforts, and I think especially focused on youth and educating them about MMIWR so that they can be aware of avoiding risk. It also helps in risk prevention. And the task force is really engaged in focusing and wanting to expand and have more education and outreach opportunities that they can participate in.
Now, it's mid-October and it's an even year, which means pretty much everything in government is kind of framed around an election season. How can citizens use their voice in November, specifically when it comes to this issue?
Well, first and foremost, I just want to encourage people to get out and vote. I think it's really important for people to do that. Voting is your voice. It's a right that many Native people here in New Mexico did not have for a while in our history. It's a way for you to choose candidates that represent and reflect your values and what you're looking at. And I think, if these issues are important to you, to go out and vote, and it's a way to support, some of the efforts that are going on in the state here.
All right. Secretary Lynn Trujillo, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.